He is on Twitter at Dan Wetzel. You read him at Yahoo Sports, and he is a New York Times bestselling author with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. Always fun to talk with him. What is up, Dan? How are you today?
I am just mesmerized by this Clark Griswold inspired set we got going. If that doesn't get you in the holiday spirit, you have no heart.
Boy, is your favorite part the beer tap behind Lance or the trees? Which
I didn't
part?
see that.
Oh, you didn't see it behind Lance? Yeah. What do we got on tap right now? Stella and Bud Light.
Yeah,
right?
we got Stella and Bud Light on tap.
That works.
but
that works, he says.
Yeah, but we can rotate it. We've had IPAs on tap in here. We rotated in and out.
I'm a Busch Light guy, so I'm good.
That's part of the family. Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri. Yes.
Thank you for sticking with the family there.
Yes,
It's not
thank
your
you.
first rodeo, Dan. Thank you.
Yeah, when was your first Busch Light? A parking lot in Detroit at 14?
Nah, well, I lived in Massachusetts then, but it's something like that. Yeah. A little younger than it probably should have been.
Hey, do you have any clue what the Rose Bowl gave up yesterday?
I think it gave up its self-importance is what it did. You know, I've been on this show a lot of years. I've covered this story for years. I wrote a couple of books about why we don't have a playoff. And the single hardest thing to explain to people was that the Rose Bowl, one game, and its obsession with having the sun set at the end of the third quarter of its game was a serious impediment to a $1 billion playoff. And people go, no, couldn't be true. But it was. They were adamant. Not only did they get to have an exclusive window on New Year's Day, the best time of all. Like last year, the Ohio State-Utah game that didn't matter got 100,000 less viewers, 16.3 million to the 16.4 million that Alabama-Cincinnati got in an actual playoff game, right? People are tuned in America. It's New Year's Day afternoon. We want to. Not only would they not give up an exclusive window at that time, they wouldn't even move it an hour earlier to 4 p.m. Eastern so that you could play the first semifinal at 12:30 on New Year's Day and the second one right at 8. And you could even sandwich the games, right? They wouldn't do that because then the sun would set an hour earlier and be at like halftime. And that was one of their impediments. Now, it's not the only one, but it was so absurd. But for a lot of years, they got so much protection and they made a ton of money for themselves. And this is it. So finally, they had their chain yanked. And I think the SoFi Stadium's the big reason, because it's like, well, you don't want to deal with us. We don't want to deal with you. We don't need to deal with you. We got this beautiful stadium right down the road. We can play in LA.
Could you make the argument, and I have, and I could be wrong about this, Dan, you followed it much closer than me, but could you make the argument that this was a growing snowball, but the true catalyst here was USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten and the Rose Bowl having to take a deep look at their future because of what the Pac-12 could offer them in the future?
No, I think the bit was that, I mean, that played a role. I mean, the Rose Bowl is weakened. I mean, we have reports that Ohio State told the Rose Bowl, don't invite us this year if we don't make the playoff, invite Penn State.
Wow.
You know, when Ohio State doesn't care about the Rose Bowl or value the Rose Bowl, who exactly is there valuing the Rose Bowl, right? So that was a report yesterday that they'll take Penn State because Ohio State went last year and the fans want to go to a different location if they're going to do a bowl thing. So I think what happened really was the president over in Mississippi State and these presidents said, get this done, and told the commissioners, who were too into petty politics and too into distractions and had their friends and all these different things going on. And they said, get this done. And somebody, at the end of the day, you sit there and go, why are we letting these people control us? So they basically said, expand now or risk even being involved in the future. And the Rose Bowl had to take a real look at it and say, if we don't go along now, we might get 2 more years in this system. But in 2026, they could replace us with SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles or any other stadium in the country. And we're on tenuous ground. And I think that's the one that pushed this over the finish line. But like you said, it was a snowball and it was coming.
I think it's safe to say Ohio State fans want to be in Phoenix or Atlanta, and there's still that outside shot if something happens this weekend with TCU or USC. Do you think ultimately there is one of these semi-upsets and Ohio State finds their way back to a college football playoff?
So I am philosophically and logically opposed to this because I think you can't punish a team playing a 13th game when the other teams are only playing 12. So to me, once the committee after 12 games said USC is better than Ohio State, then that's it. This should be the field, because what we have this weekend is a weird year. You have 1 through 4 playing, you have 5 through 8 not playing. And so it's like saying you won the 100-yard, you won a marathon, but you now have to run a couple more miles. And if we don't like how you run those, we'll put the guy you beat in the marathon and he can sit here in a lounge chair and watch you run. It doesn't make just philosophically, this 13 game shouldn't matter. But there's not a lot of logic or philosophy when it comes to college football. So could it happen? Absolutely. And I think, USC's got a tough game against Utah. I think USC can do it. I think TCU's on upset alert. Do they have enough? I mean, think about this irony of TCU. I think they should be in. I think all 4 of these should be in. But think about this. 2014, TCU is third going in the penultimate, the second to last thing. They go in the final week. They beat Iowa State 55-3, and they drop from 3rd to 6th. They drop out of the playoff, and they're told it's because you didn't have a conference championship game and you didn't have a, quote, 13th data point. 8 years, and Ohio State jumps them. 8 years later, they could have a 13th data point, knock them out for Ohio State.
That's what we like to call irony in the business.
Right. So the Big 12 creates a championship game, so this doesn't happen again. And now TCU is at risk. If they were just playing 12, they couldn't drop. So my thing this weekend is no one can play their way in, and no one can. No one should be able to play their way out.
Dan Wetzel is with us, always has a nice view of college football from a national perspective. I'm interested, when you heard Hugh Freeze introduced as the Auburn head football coach, what was your thoughts seeing Hugh Freeze back in the SEC?
I mean, it felt inevitable, right? This is like the most Auburn of all Auburn things. Let's do another one of these, right? So last year, the Auburn boosters, some of them, tried to create a scandal around Brian Harsin, a personal scandal of some sort, right? And if we have this scandal, there's no way he could be the head coach at Auburn. The scandal is false, doesn't prove true, so he gets to keep coaching. They then fire him anyway, and then they hire a guy who has had personal scandal. Like, this is college football. Like, we were so outraged you were outraged that he wasn't winning. Winning is the only thing that matters. I'm fine with it. I don't care. I know Auburn doesn't care. Sometimes Auburn and some of these schools want to pretend they care about anything other than winning, but they think Hugh Freeze is going to get this done, so they hire him. They don't care about all of his personal transgressions, his competitive transgressions, the way he treated players, the way he lied to players, all of that stuff. He doesn't care about the stories. That's fine. I would have hired Deion Sanders, but I'm not the AD at Auburn. We will see how Hugh Freeze does. He certainly has the right to coach in the SEC and coach wherever he can get a job, and now he's got one.
I don't. Dan Wetzel is with us. He's the national columnist at Yahoo Sports and a New York Times best-selling author. He's on Twitter at Dan Wetzel. If you would like to follow him there, great Christmas gift idea. He did a series of kids' books with some great athletes. Good idea for you parents looking to get your kids to read something they'll enjoy. Where do they find those, Dan? And what? I don't have it in front. Great
Amazon.
Athletes.
We got Steph Curry. We've got Zion Williamson. We got Lionel Messi, if you're into soccer right now. Alex Morgan. We have Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Serena Williams, Simone Biles. Who else we got?
Nope.
LeBron.
No Aaron Hernandez.
Well, he did the documentary.
No Aaron Hernandez.
That's for the adults.
How to?
Yeah.
I was working on those simultaneously, those projects. The Aaron Hernandez documentary, and then like these uplifting stories about how Steph Curry overcame being small to make his high school team. Yeah, I was like, okay, what is going on?
Yeah. Epic Athletes, the name of the series, by the way. Good for your kids.
Thank you.
Killer Inside, the name of the Aaron Hernandez. Yeah, which is really good to watch too if you're an adult.
You can learn from what not to do.
Correct.
Right? You can learn what not to do.
So as we're talking, the college football playoff has announced that they are expanding beginning in 2024. They've officially announced it now as we're talking to you. Yeah. So it's going to be on site for the first round, but the second rounds they announced will be played in 2024. The quarters will be in Fiesta, Peach, Rose, and Sugar. Cotton and Orange have the semis, and Atlanta has the championship. Do you like the quarters being in these bowl games? I personally would prefer to see the first 2 rounds on campus.
Absolutely. I'd go all the way to the title game like this NFL does it.
On campus. Yeah.
On campus. Make being the 2 seed. Here's the thing we're going to lose on this, right? Is something out of the regular season. And this will make the sport way more popular. More people will be into this. But the diehards, us, a lot of your listeners, like there was something, and we don't even know if it's true because, like you said, Ohio State can get back in. But there's something magical about Michigan beating Ohio State, and not just beating them, but ending their season. Now, of course, it may not even be true. They may get in anyway. But we're going to lose that. If this is a 12-team playoff, Ohio State's getting. You have to make the seeding matter so much. And so what's the best thing they have? They have the bye. Right now, you're trying to get top 12. Then you're trying to get top 8 because you're going to host that first round. Then you try to get top 4 because you get a bye. Make it even more important to get in the top 4. I think, look, college football, the action on the field is half of it. The other half is the atmospheres, the campuses. How many people listening have gone on road trips just to see a stadium, just to see a thing? You watch these amazing, the Tennessee, the vision after Tennessee beats Alabama. Why would you ever give that up to go play in some antiseptic NFL stadium somewhere just because, well, like we said with the Rose Bowl, these guys, they've been our buddies for like decades. And like, imagine going to Roger Goodell and telling him, hey, the AFC Championship game needs to move to the Alamo Dome. Okay, not Kansas City, not New England. It's got to move the Alamo Dome. And the Alamo people, the San Antonio Tourism Board, they get half the money. What do you think, Roger? What do you think?
Yeah.
That's what these guys agreed to today. It's cronyism. It's ridiculous. It's coaches that are scared of playing on the road. They'd rather play every game neutral. It's all sorts of stuff. It's going to go away eventually, that thing. But the idea of games on campus, they're going to be so popular. I don't know what the let's say the field holds, and all of a sudden it's like, I don't know what the rankings are, but let's say Oregon is going to Penn State for a game, and you add that whole Penn State whiteout and the whole app. Incredible, right? That's what you want. You don't want to see this thing in a neutral site place. So put them on campus, make the regular season more, and celebrate what I think is the most unique, if not best, part of college football.
And weather. I mean, let's be honest. Alabama,
and brings weather in.
Alabama playing in Columbus or in Happy Valley in December is a factor.
Well, we had this deal when LSU went to Arkansas. They had chicken noodle soup chicken broth on the sideline.
Yes.
They were worried about how cold it was. And I mean, like the Wisconsin Badgers are like licking their chops, like, "Hey, come up here in about a month. Your chicken soup ain't gonna do you any good." It changes that. It brings weather in. It can increase it just increases the importance of the regular season and creates better environment, and it's better for the fans. I mean, look, I know there's a lot of Alabama fans that'll travel wherever, but you're asking Bama fans to go 3 straight weekends right now, and in the future it'll be 4. You got to go to Atlanta this week. Then you're going to go to a quarterfinal somewhere, where whatever you come up with. Then you got to go to the semifinal somewhere, and then you got to go to the title game. How many fans realistically have that kind of money, the resources, and the time to go do that? And what about what one of these games would mean to Tuscaloosa's economy and Birmingham's economy? I mean, this would be the biggest sporting event in the history of the state. And it's hundreds of millions of dollars. Why are we giving it to Miami? They don't care about college football in Miami. They don't care in Glendale, Arizona about college football. I'd much rather that money and the fans in Alabama and Columbus, Ohio, and State College, Pennsylvania get those dollars.
So 2 new Big Ten coaches, Luke Fickell to Wisconsin, and you've got Matt Rule to Nebraska. Will either one of those guys have either one of those programs in this new college football playoff by 2030?
What year? 8 years? Yeah, I think so. I think they can. Luke Fickell's a heck of a hire for Wisconsin. I mean, that he got Cincinnati in the playoff in a 4-team. Can he get Wisconsin in a 12? Yeah, I think so. He's a great coach and a great developer of talent and recruit. He had 9 NFL draft picks last year at Cincinnati, 9, including like Sauce Gardner was not a highly recruited player out of Detroit. He's going to be the AFC Rookie of the Year, defensive, right? Kobe Bryant's playing very well in the NFL right now. So he can do great stuff, and I think Matt Rule can. And I think the thing with Nebraska is unleashing the NIL potential and corralling the power of that fan base. It's such an enormous fan base, and it's such an important thing in the state of Nebraska that they should be able to recruit a little better. That's always been their problem, is how do you get players to come to Nebraska? Well, giving them money, that doesn't hurt. That could help. So I certainly think Wisconsin, I think we looked in the past 8 years, Wisconsin would have hosted 3 playoff games. So I think, and that would be amazing. What a great place to watch a game. I think Luke Fickell certainly can do it.
All right, he is Dan Wetzel, national columnist, Yahoo Sports. Read him there. Follow him on Twitter at Dan Wetzel. And great Christmas idea for the kids in your life, the Epic Athlete Series. Great stories about great athletes in the world of sports, male, female, I mean, across all genders, everything. So take a look at that. Dan, we appreciate the time, man. Great talking with you as always.
Thanks, guys. Always fun.
All right, buddy. Take care. Dan Wetzel
Merry
with
Christmas.
us. You too on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline.